Hold on, Doc. Now, look, Paddock has always been a quiet little town, except for a couple of fights now and then, and a couple of bikers making noise, right, Sam?
Yeah, boss.
Now, let's all respect Maria's desire discreetly, and let's not talk about this anymore. Doc, go looking for trouble. You just sew her up and put her in the ground, okay?
Welcome back to another edition of Chopping It Up's Prime Cuts series. I'm your host, Jesse Goodman, and I'm joined by my CIU compadres, Joel and Jeannie. This week, we chop up a slice of 1980s slasher obscurity that doesn't get nearly enough love. We're talking about 1988's Edge of the Axe, or El Filo del Hacha, or if you prefer in the German release, Axe Solution, which is pretty awesome. Edge of the Axe is a Spanish-American co-production directed by Jose Ramon Lares, that swaps sun-soaked Southern California for a sleepy small town under siege by a masked killer with a very literal taste for hardware. So we'll discuss if this one is in fact a cult classic, a forgotten gem, or a VHS era fever dream best left in the bargain bin. We're sharpening our meat cleavers and getting ready to cut right to the chase on this one. As a reminder, Prime Cuts is designed as a quick-hitting, free-form conversation where we discuss a breadth of horror mediums, including anthologies, theatrical releases, graphic novels, shorts, and other forms of media. There is no set agenda here as we shoot from the hip and provide any gleaned insights from our respective viewings. And we're definitely not riding solo on this venture tonight because when dealing with 1980s schlock horror movies, you reach out to the experts on such things. And in this case, we've reached all the way across the pond to do so. Please welcome our special guest, the man behind one of the sharpest horror sites on the internet, Slasher Trash, aka Gareth. Gareth, welcome to Chopping It Up. I guess I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know how you came to the horror space, what got you into the horror movies in the first place, and what you're working on now.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. 2017, it's been almost 10 years. I just started the Slasher Trash page on Facebook because obviously I've always been into horror and stuff, but I've always veered more towards slashers. And I decided about sort of 10 years ago, I was like, I want to watch every single slasher, the 70s, the 80s. I want to really like do a deep dive and catch every single one that came out, especially in the 70s and 80s. And if I make that before I die, then I can maybe go, later decades or ones previous or whatever, 70s and 80s. So I developed this Facebook page for everyone to sort of follow me on the journey. And then it kind of just sort of became a real hub for like discussion on slasher films and stuff. And then the page grew and it's like now, I think some like 203,000 followers on Facebook. And it turns out that there's quite a lot of people out there who love these trashy slashers as well. So it was going great guns. And then Creative EC got in touch with me. They're the makers of the In Search of Darkness documentary series and The Thing Expanded. And they said, we love what you do. We'd love to make a documentary on like these more obscure slashers. Sort of everyone knows Scream, Halloween, Friday the 13th, the big franchises. Let's do one where we focus more on the standalone slashers and the ones that are slightly more obscure. So obviously I was like, that's a documentary I paid to see anyway. So I just happened to be involved in it. So happy days.
That's perfect. And Gareth and I were chatting before we started recording, and the slasher stuff is right up my alley. Joel and Jeannie know this. We went, it was about almost a year ago. I was set to have surgery, and so I was going to be out for a bit, and I decided we would run a bunch of recordings back to back one day and get everything in the can so we could release stuff incrementally when I was going to be out. And stupidly, they just left me up to my own devices. So I chose every Slasher Trash vehicle I could think of, and we did like 4 or 5 recordings all day long. I mean, we're talking, let me think.
The Dutch one?
Slugs. We did Slugs.
Amsterdammed.
Yeah.
I loved that one. I really did.
Night Killer.
Night Killer. Are you familiar with that one, Garrett? Okay.
That's a great one.
With the Freddy Krueger weird hand claw glove type things. Like that one just freaks me out.
Yeah, and Humanoids from the Deep. That was another.
Oh
good
yeah,
one.
that was
that one.
Classic. Yeah, so those were all. And you know what? It's funny that I just mentioned that because we have a crossover cast from Slugs to Edge of the Axe.
Oh, really?
Which do you guys know who it is? Can you recall?
I do because you told me. But...
I spoiled it for Joel. So Rita, the town prostitute / hairstylist, was one of the wives in Slugs. She's chopping up the salad, and she chops up one of the slugs in the head of lettuce, which seems apropos for at least America. We're having a lettuce lettuce diarrhea parasite problem right now in the States, which seems apt.
Weird way to enter the apocalypse. I didn't think that was going to happen.
I didn't have that on the bingo card, but this kind of stuff. And that's what interested me first. I was also talking with Gareth, this was probably in May, one of the actors in Edge of the Axe, Jack Taylor, passed away. I think it was May, right? Only a few months ago.
Not long ago, yeah.
Not long ago. Yeah. And Gareth posted on it, and I was like, oh man, that sucks. And I obviously remembered from Edge of the Axe. And so we connected that way, and I thought, man, let's bring him on because he's obviously right in line with our interests here.
Yeah.
So good. So where are you? So I think you've completed the documentary, correct?
We're very close. We have a few interviews left to do, but we have already started like the editing process, and we've got a composer on board. So we're sort of hoping to have it released sometime around November. I think the digital download version may come first, and then the physical copies. But we're going to do a final pre-sale in October for Halloween, because Halloween tends to be the slasher month. I know it encompasses all of horror, but so we do a final pre-sale in October. But yeah, we're very, very close. There's just a few bits of fine-tuning here and there. And
what are some of the top obscure slashers? I know it seems like an oxymoron, but the biggest, smallest ones, the ones that you had to dig deep for that you cover on there.
Well, we're not allowed to give away the official list.
Oh no!
Yet,
okay, I got you.
However, there's a few foreign ones that may not have been, I say, heard of, or certainly not covered in any sort of major length. And we've got a few Indian creators and filmmakers to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, and we cover a few of the obviously shot and video ones as well. But to be honest, we still, because we're in the editing, we still actually do have to finalize. We have to know like which bits we're going to keep in. So I couldn't actually say to you yet for sure which films are going to make it or not, because there might be some that might end up on the cutting room floor and just be extras on the Blu-ray, because we're trying to aim for 4.5 hours. And obviously, Jesse, you'll know just how many slashers there are out there. It's like, well, how long do you dedicate to each slasher? If each slasher gets a couple of minutes, you're going to run out of time. So that'll be up to Michael Gingold, our writer-director. But yes, eventually we will release the finalized list. But let's just say there should be a few surprises.
I'm super psyched to check that out. What we should do is we should have you circle back once it's released, jump on, and then we can get the full rundown from your view. When I saw the length, I think I was reading one of your posts on its in excess of 4 hours. My first instinct was, I don't know if that's long enough to cover everything.
Well, no, that's the thing. It's not. So there will be, some choices that have to be made. And I guess maybe when there are some of the sort of more obscure ones that really don't offer that much to the subgenre, or to history or evolution or whatever, then, those are the ones that probably won't get covered on. So we're trying our very best to highlight the ones that really do either make a difference or stand out for cultural reasons or whatever. But yeah, it's going to be hard. And I said the same as you. It's like, can we not just make it 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours? Yeah.
Multi-DVD collection.
Yeah. Without the whole, right. All physical media, we should bring it back.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just going to say the subgenre of slashers and the origin thereof was like, these are small budget indie flicks, for lack of a better term. That's really what they are functionally. And we talked about how these sort of periphery actors who may have only had 2 or 3 movies or not even, or might have had a background in commercials, which is the case with Edge of the Axe. Several of the actors there just basically were character actors or commercial guys. they come from other corners of movies that weren't respected. We talked about porn and how a lot of the actors and crew members come from softcore porn, the porn industry, and have sort of worked their way into what was then still an equally unrespected subgenre in slasher films, which had, I mean, I guess you have to point to Carpenter as someone who really turned that around. Maybe Black Christmas. I know, Gareth, you mentioned that before we went on the air. That's really when people started to take notice of slashers as an art form proper. And I think it's neat to see the evolution of the slasher film.
One of the things
it is.
One of the things I was going to point out, because they normally have me be the numbers guy, Gareth, like on looking at the budgets and which will be fun with this movie, because that was hard. There's no information documented anywhere on this movie, but one of the things I think is so interesting to me about slasher movies is because of the nature of them, right? Like, you have a predominantly human antagonist, right? Like, most of them are human. And in the number of special effects you need is relatively low. And normally the locations are scant. Like, you don't need a ton of different locales to shoot at. That keeps your budgetary requirements very, very low. Those are big drivers of the budgets in movies. And so because of that, you just have so many people taking a swing at the subgenre. And it's produced some really great stuff. I mean, like, obviously we were talking about Halloween on the way in. Like, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, right? And you could go on with like all these other niche ones, but do you guys get into that with your documentary? Like, what is it about the subgenre that drives this proliferation?
Yeah, it's definitely something we want to touch upon. Like, even though we will have like the different sort of categories within the subgenre, like summer camp slashers and suburban slashers and character study slashers and so on. Yeah, absolutely, it's very important to touch upon how. Because obviously we made a conscious decision from the beginning, we're not just going to bang on about Halloween and Friday the 13th, because everyone knows everything from those films anyway, or all the big fans do. But obviously you can't make a slasher documentary without touching upon them and referencing them as like a jumping off point. So like you guys said, like the way Black Christmas came along and then Halloween came on from Black Christmas and almost like solidified the template of the slasher film, and then Friday the 13th went, Sean S. Cunningham was like, we can do that. Tell you what, let's make it more gory, and they're going to love that even more. And then before you know it, then everybody's ripping off Friday the 13th, which kind of ripped off Halloween. So yeah, you have to go into that element of detail in order to sort of show the audience who's watching, who, for example, maybe don't know much about the history of the subgenre, and pay tribute to it. And we do try and go a bit proto slashers as well as a segment on that. So we're going back further back than Black Christmas, back to sort of Psycho territory and Peeping Tom and so on, and Bay of Blood, things like that. So it's been loads of fun, and we just want to make sure we honor the subgenre the way that we think that us slasher fans think it deserves to be. Yeah,
that's well said. Is Bay of Blood,
that sounds great.
Mario, is that Bava? That's it. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Mario Bava. And if you any eagle-eyed Friday the 13th fans will easily pick up on the fact that there's deaths in the original Friday the 13th and Friday the 13th Part 2, which are, in our opinions, clearly ripped off from A Bay of Blood, even though nobody on those films claims that to have seen A Bay of Blood, or admits to having seen Bay of Blood. It seems too much of a coincidence.
Yeah, there's Joel and I have talked previously on the show about there's basically three categories when you talk about art, whether it's music, film, literature, whatever it is. There's the originators, the innovators, and the imitators. And you can sort of section them off that way. And where someone has invented something, someone else is going to refine it or add to it in a certain way. And then there's people who just rip it off. They all have value depending on what you're looking for in a film. And so, something becomes so derivative, but then we get a kick out of stuff like slashers, schlock stuff that is unintentionally funny. The people trying their hardest and being earnest and failing miserably to do so, like it for some reason, and the interior lives of these ancillary characters and these secondary characters, and it's just super fun to get into. And speaking of the last thing, there's Friday the 13th Part 3. I picked up on this. I know we said in our previous episode we did with the Final Girls, we did The Fog, John Carpenter's The Fog. In the beginning of John Carpenter's The Fog, there's one of the workers, when they're sort of doing cuts around this coastal town, there's one of the night workers cleaning up an aisle in a convenience store. And he ends up taking a bottle of orange juice, opens it up, takes a swig of it, puts the top on and puts it back and walks away. And I just thought, what an odd touch for Carpenter to put in there. And then you fast forward to Steve Miner, the director of Friday the 13th Part 3. In the beginning there's a guy running a convenience store, and he's walking down the aisles of his little store, and he pulls off a thing of orange juice and takes a swig of it and puts it back on the shelf. And that is absolutely a nod to Carpenter that I don't think who's going to pick up on that, and clearly he's getting his stuff.
Who is it, Jesse? Is it Raimi and Carpenter, or is it Raimi and someone else? They kept putting each other's stuff in the background, like posters from movies.
It was Raimi. Yeah, it was
Raimi and Carpenter.
Raimi and Carpenter. Yeah.
And it's just, they're just poking each other. It's so fun.
Well, I think that's a good segue for us to get into the vehicle tonight for 1988's Edge of the Axe. Highly derivative, right? It's probably in the latter category, but I know I still really, really enjoy it. And they even give us a good twist ending, sort of reminiscent, for me at least, of Sleepaway Camp. Kind of felt like we were going in that direction. Yeah. So I'll do a brief, we can do a brief synopsis in as much as we can, and then we can dive in. You're in a southern coastal California town, which is actually filmed in Black Bear, which is in California, which is a big training facility for pro boxers in America. Actually, they go sequester
Northern
themselves.
California, right?
Yeah, no, it's Southern California.
Okay.
Black Bear is, and it is in the mountains, but it's a little secluded. In any event, you've got that small town, and you've got this young man, Gerald, and what would soon be his girlfriend Lillian. They are falling for each other, and at the same time this is happening, there's a massed axe murder taking out various townsfolk in the town. There's a bit of that sort of computer technology kind of play going on here, where Gerald is, I think in the description they say, obsessed with computers, but by today's standards he would be not right. Even in the top right. So they communicate via their magical computer, which this antedates the internet proper. So
this is way before AOL Messenger.
So
you're curious what their AOL Messenger
We'll get into it. Jesse asked me, he was like, what is going on here?
Well, we can get into it now. So this is 88, filmed in 87. What kind of computer do they have? Is any of this possible? I'm a Luddite, so
they were
if
using...
you refer back, go ahead, Joel.
No. It's peer-to-peer. So they're doing modem-to-modem communication back in the day. So I remember, because I'm a dork and I'm old, sitting with a printed list of phone numbers that would be people who had modems, where they would allow you to get to, it wasn't even a server, it was just a hard drive, right? And you could download games and things, and they were called bulletin boards, right? And so you'd go to the bulletin boards and you can go there, but you could do the same thing with your friend, and you would just connect to them, and basically you could chat back and forth a little bit, but it was not a whole lot you could do with it at the time. But I mean, Jeannie, I don't know if you were going to say anything else, but.
No, I was just going to say, definitely before that, we saw that in John Hughes' Pretty in Pink. Between Andy and Andrew McCarthy's character, they're in the library and they're typing to each other.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah, so it's that, and I think the computers he was using was it sounds pejorative when I say it, but a cheap IBM clone. Now, I say that I had a cheap IBM clone, because I wasn't buying an IBM computer back in the day because they were too expensive. But that's all it was. It was just a regular machine that ran Windows. And then there was a Mac, I think, off to the side.
How dare you minimize that man's computer? Gerald waited for that, and old man Brock had it at his house, and he was very excited to get in his octagonal hovel and go hook it up.
And I don't know if any of you guys caught this. Jesse did, but he was like, they kept talking about some database. And unless, I could have just missed it. Jesse's seen this like 40 times or whatever. But so Gareth, have you ever watched the show like Criminal Minds or any of those type of FBI procedural type things?
Yeah, a little bit over the years. I'm certainly no expert, but
right. But the star of that show, my wife used to like him, so I accidentally ruined it. The star of those shows is always what I call the magic database that cross references like people's dinner records with like their kindergarten drawings and like their high school transcripts and everything. And it's like,
well, let me ask you, Joel.
Doesn't exist. It's not there.
Joel, if I just typed in like, is Joel gay? Would it know that? Would it?
Apparently it would at least give a good guess. Now,
worst way
ChatGPT probably has an answer.
It's not where I thought she was going with that. I was like,
It's very strange. I thought it was going to be like, is he going to kiss me? Right. Or something.
Right.
It's not the best flirt. Not the best way to flirt.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It was, I was crying. I was absolutely crying. When she said that, I was like, where is that coming from?
The dialogue here can be attributed to two things, in my view. I mean, the dialogue is just putrid, and it's hilarious because it's so bad. I mean, Joel pointed this out. It's got four screenwriters, right? So you got four people, obviously on different pages writing it.
One didn't even have his name.
One's uncredited. And then you've got, of course, it's a co-production between Spain and America. You've got a Spanish director. You've got American and Spanish actors. I feel like there's a lot lost in translation. And then adding to all of that, there's like this bad ADR half the time where you feel like someone is doing a weird voiceover on something that doesn't need to be voiceovered. And then the weirdest line to me was when they're in the same room and Gerald's helping Lillian get on his computer, and before she asks if it's gay, and he's like, "Hey, do you want something to drink?" Which seems perfectly normal. And she's like, "Yeah, I'll have a Coca-Cola." A lot of weird product placement in this movie too, oddly enough. I think they were trying to make it seem American. Yeah.
The set design is like America, like
yes.
Yeah.
Are they in America?
Are they
trying to make us think they're in America?
Poster Platoon up and like
Coca-Cola, Cheerios. There's a lot of stuff, and I think the interiors were all filmed in Madrid, and the exteriors were in Big Bear Lake in California. So they really, like you said, Gareth, they're just like slapping stuff on the walls, which you'll see through a lot of these kinds of slasher movies that are co-produced, which we did a lot of them that were like Italian American, Spanish American, wherever, some in the Netherlands with American actors. Anyway, he walks to get the Coca-Cola, and she stops him and yells from the other room, "Is it cold Coke?" And I'm like, it's like, what kind of question?
That's a fair question.
Boiling hot Coke.
Going to the refrigerator.
Yeah, he's not throwing Coke in the microwave. Like it's going to be in the.
No, but I didn't think that she knew he was going to the refrigerator to get it. Like I would actually ask that question. Like, don't give me a fucking warm Coke. Like for all she knew, he could be going to the kitchen to get like one from a 6-pack that he's storing on his cabinet.
So they've got the budding romance going on. At the same time, we have this masked killer, which I think we could talk a little bit about the design of the mask, which is sort of like a hybrid of Voorhees and Michael Myers in a way, right?
Yeah. It was definitely giving Halloween vibes, right?
It's wicked.
The practical effects weren't awful, provided the scant budget that we presume they had without confirmation. I mean, you actually get to see a lot of the trickery that comes from Hitchcock, especially in Psycho, where you don't actually see the stabbing, the impact of the knife. Dude, you're getting hit with like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hits with an axe to the body. I'm like, well, this is great. Fingers getting chopped off, the whole deal. Yeah. So
some of the reviews I got, or I was able to find, right, like actual reviews from papers after the fact, because this was direct to video release. but said things like, "Oh, it was really gory" and blah blah blah, which was very reminiscent of like Texas Chainsaw, where there really isn't a lot of gore in that movie. There's a lot of atmospheric, scary, creepy things, but you don't see that much gore. There wasn't that much gore in this movie either. It just, with the swings and then the splatter, you feel like there's something.
Well, you're not seeing guts or brains exposed. They probably just couldn't put that together. I was trying to remember who the practical effects guy was. A lot of the crew, you just had nothing else. I know. Well, we had a couple of names on the crew. The editor, Barry Bilar, did Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare in 1991, so he's somebody. The makeup department guy, it's Colin Arthur. That's who it was.
Okay.
Is that who you're thinking of? It's the makeup guy. He worked on Conan the Barbarian. He worked on Conan the Barbarian, and he did the Neverending Story.
Well, so what's funny is there's at least two people that came from Conan the Barbarian. So there's the guy you're talking about, which I didn't find him, but the guy I found was was the cinematographer who's okay. I'm going to butcher this person's name. So Tote, I guess, Tote. I don't know. Trainus. He was the cinematographer, and he worked. I think he was like the assistant cinematographer for Conan.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's a competent. That's the thing about this. Yeah. I think Gareth would probably agree. There's a base level of competence you have to have in order to pull off the slasher trash kind of vibe. If you don't have that, it can't even be entertaining in a good, bad way. It has to have that basic level of everyone knows what they're doing well enough to pull this off. And this definitely does. I mean, the director, I think he did Vampires was what he's better known for, and a couple other smaller films. Yes. But, I think the casting, while a lot of the actors didn't go anywhere, didn't do much outside of this, they're inhabiting their roles well enough. I'm into the town. I'm into what's unfolding. The whole thing seems to be, at least for me, I'm interested in where it's going, especially when we start building to Gerald potentially being the killer himself. And the idea that the backstory of Lillian having this childhood trauma of pushing her cousin off of a swing set, which fractures his skull and he's got to have surgery. Right. And she just had this violent impulse that she went off her medication, but she's all better now. And that sets us up about a third of the way, halfway through the movie. And then we start trying to play around with it's a whodunit, which is very much, you talk about being derivative. This is very much in the Giallo style of, sort of part cop procedural, part slasher, which again is Amsterdam, like we talked about. It's a lot of these where you don't know who the killer is. They're going to give you that twist. Started in Italy in the 60s, and then the subgenre, fanned out to Spain and the Netherlands and across Europe. And it's a great way to do it. It's a great way to do it to keep you interested to the last, the third act there. What did you guys make of the third act and how we come out with who actually did it and how they get there? Did you guys follow that? Did you have questions? I have a lot of theories on what the hell happened in the last 15 minutes of the movie.
I'll let somebody else go first because I want to hear what other people
Jeannie,
thought.
Jeannie.
I want to hear Gareth. Go ahead.
I would tell you this. The thing I do always say about myself is, even though I'm a so-called expert, when it comes to watching whodunits for the very first time, and the first time I saw Edge of the Axis maybe like 10 years ago, I often fail to guess correctly because if it's obvious, then I'll go, yeah, well, they're making it obvious, so it's obviously not going to be that person. But then you then go back and go, yeah, but is it just obvious because they're incompetent? And it is going to be like, so I flip-flop back and forth, and I always narrow it down to 2 or 3, which I think anybody can do, but I always get it wrong. And I got it wrong. I didn't think, it's like, I thought because his best mate disappears for a while,
Richard,
it had to be. Is it Richard? Yeah, I just thought it just had to be him. And the way he would sometimes show little hints of aggression, the way he was talking about his wife and stuff like. And well, he
flat out talks about because he's an exterminator. Right. He's like, yeah, one day I'll exterminate her, and he's like, wouldn't that be? They have a good laugh at that,
murdering the wife. right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, is that their way? Is that their attempt to like classic foreshadowing sort of thing? And it was just like, I was like, I don't know. But yeah, so I got it wrong. So for me, it was a real great twist. I was like, oh, wicked, love it. So yeah, I didn't get it.
That's funny.
So
Well, you
go
wanted
ahead,
Jeannie to go.
Yeah.
Jeannie was texting me
I
the whole
watched
time.
it today. I watched it today, and I was like texting Jesse the whole time, and I'm like, oh my god, Gerald's Charlie. And I was like, wait, like, don't tell me, like, I'm not done yet. Because I was like, oh, things are starting to line up. And then she's like, what's the scar on the back of your neck for?
Right.
And then, like, when he came at the end and he's like, you're Charlie. And he's like trying to show her the stuff on the computer. I'm like, I don't know if that necessarily works for me.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes sense that he would be Charlie.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. He's gaslighting her big time. It felt that way, and it felt like he was so intently pushing this narrative onto her that you were like,
yes.
well, it's obviously going to be him. And then they put it
right
under us, So it's like, again, it's like,
yeah.
is that a conscious decision from the director and the actor to say, you've got to overplay this, you've got to make yourself seem like so? Because why is it he's also being really mean to her as well, like the way he's like accusing her.
He's grabbing.
Yes.
He's help you. It's like, are you going to help her? Or are you going to smash her to death? Like
like all the things were lining up for it to be him, except for the creepy fact that he's like now like wants to fuck his cousin.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's not a very Northern California thing. That's very much like North Carolina. So we're getting confused.
That's very south. Yeah, it's Southern America. Yeah. That's not.
That's very Southern America. Like that was the only kind of weird part where I was like, but then he's coming back and he's trying to like woo her and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that the confusion around that. Sorry, Joel. I'll let you get your take in a moment. The confusion around that, as I understand it, I read a lot online. I listen to other podcasts that cover the movie that we're going to cover just to get all the different perspectives. And the director, according to God, what the hell was Gerald's name? Barton.
I've got it here. Hold on.
Barton Fox. So there was an interview with Barton, which was essentially him saying, look, the director didn't know what he wanted to do. He had me wearing the suit one day. He had Lillian's actor wearing the suit the other day. It would be men, women, cast members, crew members, and everyone would get under the mask.
The sizes were changing.
The size, and we know this as an audience. One of them, when Rita the prostitute's about to get killed, he comes into almost full view. He's silhouetted, maskless.
That's a big man. That's not a small.
It's clearly a man with a man's face and a man's hair and a man's build. And so I think, in my view, and I have this crazy hot take on it, that I don't think he knew how he wanted this thing to end. And I think here's what I think his original vision was Gerald is Charlie. He was the cousin who was pushed off the swing, cracked his head. That's why he has the scar at the base of his skull. He had surgery for his, fractured skull and whatever brain trauma. He returns to town. Remember, he's new to town, right?
Yeah.
He's not a native of that town, of Paddock. And she's there. She's the killer who has, multiple personality syndrome or schizophrenia or whatever her disorder is. And he came back and maybe to seek vengeance on her. And she's the one who has these breaks with reality. And then he falls in love with her. And yes, we get a cousin fucking incest angle, which is not that crazy from all of the awful slasher. Are you kidding me? I mean, Sleepaway Camp's ending blows this one away, but
totally.
I feel like that would be even better than what we ended up getting, which was still a little mixed up until we get that demented smile that she has over the sheriff's shoulder at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I still enjoyed it. Like, the best part of this movie is the last 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But I shouldn't say I enjoyed it. That implies I enjoyed the whole movie. I enjoyed the last 5 minutes. But the way I was looking at it was, okay, he's Charlie, he's the killer, right? Because I think the movie is telling us most of the time, like, the director's intent seems to be he's the killer, right?
Yeah.
Not like they're going to swap it out on, like, I really believe, like, the movie is saying he's the killer. And then you get to the end and he changes his mind. what I think would have made more sense, like a different ending, although I liked what you just said, Jess, which I hadn't thought of, would have been if he, when the police start pulling up, if, what's his name? The actor who's playing Gerald goes and says, "Oh, she's the killer," blah, blah, blah. And then she gets gunned down and he gets to live and kill again, right? That type of thing. Because that would be a traditional setup, right? Like for a sequel and all of those things. The way we did it, I'm like, is she the killer, or did he just gaslight her into now becoming a killer? So we're more like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of the tone is uneven, and the pacing's obviously uneven, and that's a fault for the director. But like the opening credits, the title sequence, we've got like comedic sitcom music playing. Like you know what I mean? They're driving around, a lot of driving around town scenes. It's like a really funny juxtaposition of this awful axe wielding murderer hacking people and chopping pigs' heads off and stuff, and also like do. It's like a buddy sitcom with Gerald and Richard trying to bag chicks at the
they're hijinks,
you know?
right? Yeah.
Trying to play with Maria's titas.
Her bodacious, her bodacious tatas.
Bodacious tatas.
Yes, but in the song it was a tita.
A tita.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was like, kind of slightly confused, because there were all these like cinematic shots, right? So I'm thinking of like the opening shot, right? I'm like, somebody had this vision. They're like a car wash and a window, and like the water's coming down and then the blood's coming down with it. They're like,
great.
This is
Actually,
going to be it. And, which is like really good. As I'm watching it, I'm like, oh shit, like a car wash murder? Never thought about that, right? And then just like the visual of like the water dripping down and then the blood coming out. And then they really focused on that like symbol of the plus sign. And I'm like, is this going to come back somehow? Right? So they have like this really cinematic. And then there were certain.
Because it was. That's
what, Joel?
That's a Red Cross, so it's like a blood donation thing. I really do think that's
no. So she's a nurse. Like she was outfitted in a nurse's outfit.
Oh, okay. I thought they were doing some Red Cross thing.
No, and they focused on that because, as it turns out, we find out later via the computer, which we can really get into computer stuff. Right.
Yeah,
she's hitting up all of the healthcare workers that dealt with her during her recovery, and the other people she's killing are people who try to be romantically involved with her father, so that she's jealous of them for whatever reason.
Yeah. So you have like that scene, and then there's like two specific parts in the movie where the camera work, you're just like, what? The first one is when they're doing they're in the church practicing, and it like really narrows in on the eyes of, that guy, Christopher.
That's Jack Taylor. That's Christopher Kaplan, baby.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. And so they really zoom in on his eyes, and you're like, what am I supposed to be getting from this? Like, what are you trying to tell us, right?
He's a lecherous guy who ends up banging Laura, the older wife of Richard. Yeah.
And then the second one is at the funeral for, who is it, Anna Bixby? And they all of a sudden they get these weird fisheye views of everybody. And you're like, again, what is this supposed to mean?
It's like a Jane's Addiction video.
Yes. It was like these like really like, this is what I have
strange
this
artistic
vision
choice
of this, like, I need these scenes in here. And then as I was texting Jesse, like the number of times where they just like did the view of them driving like out the window, like did they have to extend the runtime? Like, all right, you're in Northern California, I'm expecting something to happen. You're just driving down the road.
In fact, they had to cut time out of the movie, because they had to cut scenes out because Gareth, they were going to give it, and there's a certain rating in the UK or a designation, a category. What's it called, Gareth? It's going to escape me.
The BFC, the what you mean, the actual, like,
it'll be
15,
what's it?
18.
No, it's a phrase of like naughty something or other, or the something. Yes, it's a video nasty. They were going to get that designation. They wanted to avoid it. They actually cut some scenes out of it.
Wait,
so it's
video nasty is a video nasty.
It was like the banned list here,
declaration,
right?
Yeah,
Is
it
that what
was a BBFC. It was like a recordings act from like 1984, where basically videos had to have certification, basically to, age 15, you can't rent it unless you're 15, 18, and so on. And there was a bunch of films that basically were just deemed way too gory, and they landed on this.
Oh, I
video
love it.
list.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like
we
a
had
code
stuff
name.
like that too, but
I'm Video
Zombie
Nasty.
was one of the ones on the list, right, Gareth?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
known as zombie flesh eaters over here for some reason. That was one of the most notorious ones. That was cut, heavily cut. Banned for a while, I think, as well. There's loads of documentaries on the Video Nasties as well, so that's worth checking out.
Yeah, I watched one at some point. That's how I know a little bit about it, but I don't remember the name. Like, I've watched a lot of weird documentaries.
Well, it's interestingly enough, the Arrow video, the Arrow video Blu-ray, I did notice when I revisited it the other day, is a 15 certificate. So it's not even like deemed to be an 18, which is the highest certificate in the UK. So it's a 15. So it's basically admitted like the gore is toned down on this film.
Yeah.
And it is technically uncut. So like you said, it's mostly suggestive. It's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like you said, where your memory of it, because it's so well edited, you remember it being gory and what it is, but it's very, very smart with the cutaways and stuff, and you don't actually see a lot, because axe murders are something that are very almost like a bit taboo, aren't they? If you think about it, like they often threaten axe murders and like the Friday the 13th movies or whatever, but there's not actually that many. Whereas this is a film that just like stands on that hill. It goes, every murder is going to be with an axe. To be fair, you don't see the axe going right into the flesh,
Yeah.
Which is strange, because I feel like a lot of the victims, the women, just kind of went up against the wall, and then they're just like, oh, I'm like, keep running. You're basically offering yourself. Like, I know there's a wall there, but honey, roll off it. It was like, that was always the go-to. And then it was like,
Jeannie, there was one in particular that gets hit in the arm. I think she's reaching into like through a doorway. And like, she just kind of lays back and is like, it gets her a couple of times. Arm. And I'm like,
don't hit me with that axe, please.
Yeah, it's really.
Well,
she liked it.
I do want to segue us into. I mean, because it's funny, again, from the title sequence, you've got this font, this computer font, and it's very clear that at the time they were sort of on the cutting edge, or tried to be on the cutting edge of this technology thing, and being able to communicate and connect via this technology that was, as old man Brock says, it's wasting my electricity. What are those newfangled boxes? But it's interesting because at some point Lillian says, while they're in the midst of their budding romance, I don't know if it's a direct quote, but it's, if our relationship relies on machines, it will ruin it. Right. And I was just thinking about that in 1987 or whenever they were shooting this to 2026, and just how prescient that is, where, here we all are connecting via that same resource. Everyone has an Instagram page. Everyone has their social medias, the dating apps, the hookups, the miscommunication via text because there's no social cues, right? This really is something that does break up relationships, friendships, family relationships, romantic, like it is a real big deal. And it's funny that they actually anticipated that all those years, those decades in advance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gareth.
I just want to know, Joel, do you know if when they type to each other and you can actually hear, is that just...
Yeah, what any computer has that?
That's some high-tech shit right there. Like, I don't think they can do that.
No, they cannot. They cannot. And there were a lot of things with the computer. So the way I said it, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's like someone read the magazine, like an article out of a magazine, Scientific America or whatever, and was like, wait a second, and then shoved it in a movie, right? Like, because there's no real need for, like, it would make more sense. I honestly think it would work pretty well if you were to make this movie in 2026 and have these people texting back and forth or doing, things over Skype or whatever, right? Like, and talking back and forth that way, it would make a fair amount. I said Skype, but that's short.
You could even move ahead 10 years and you would still be there. Like if you set this in 1999, right? Like it's still right.
Well, there have
right
been a few films like that.
Yeah. It's right before everything goes. And so like people are still most talking via like the chat clients and stuff, ICQ and all that. They haven't necessarily, and nobody's really migrated over to like pure texting. So you could do it even 10 years later.
And I think that might actually be better than having, if you were going to have a reboot of this, rather than having it in 2026, maybe the better thing, like Jeannie's saying, is it's in like 1999, where this stuff isn't perfect yet. And so there might be a database that you can look up who has committed a crime in the Paddock, California. But it has a lot of.
I would be able to find that shit out.
Like Jeannie would stalk you online back then with whatever tools she had.
I've seen it. She's got skills.
Interesting stuff. So, that's basically the only real theme they had here. But usually, Gareth, we close out with a rating system here. Meat cleavers on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. How many meat cleavers would you give this film? Let's let Gareth lead off for this one. And what did you think, and how do you rate it?
Well, because I'm a nerd, I have to do things in halves because I like to rate in 10 as well. So it's been upgraded. It used to be a 3. It's a 3.5 for me now.
Love it. Love it. Joel, what do you got?
Hey, one of my favorite podcasts is this podcast. We Hate
chopping
Movies.
It up.
Yeah, and they on We Hate Movies, they review stuff, and they talk about how there are movies that are seeing is believing, right? And you have to see them just because they're fascinating. This is that for me. This is like a 2.5 for me because it is just so odd. It's wonderfully odd, right?
Jeannie, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 2.9. I definitely liked aspects of it. I felt a little bit, and this is always my thing. I hate, committing to a score because I'm like, what am I rating it on? Like campiness, like, that kind of shit. Cause yes, bring it on. Or like actual, like, the fear. But I think there was just kind of some kind of stuff that was like all over that I wish it had those like some of those artistic shots. And then you're like thrown right back into like, wait, what is happening? So yeah, it's a 2.9. I also liked that it was shot in like Northern California. It looked very Northern California.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think there was a lot of like, they were developing these like subplots with Richard's elderly wife and her going bankrupt. Elderly. I know she's like 10 years younger than I am, but yeah, she's elderly.
She's probably our age.
She's definitely. She looked like Mrs. Roper from Three's Company. But
see how old she was in this movie.
But like, I don't need to see her sit down with her banker that she's going bankrupt and then go pick up Jack Taylor at the bar and get hammered drunk. Like, it just seemed weird. But for me, I think the weak point, I thought the first half hour, the opening scene in the car wash, the first half hour is like legitimately very good. And of course, the final act, although confusing, really had me interested. The middle drags for me. I always find myself tuning out in the middle and then come in. Also, like, to be honest, with Slasher Fare and Gareth, I'm sure he ran across this a ton. And you're like, I need some gratuitous nudity in there. If you're going to bed down Susan on the boat, at a Big Bear Lake, can I just see some titties?
Some bodacious tatas.
Some bodacious tatas. But for me, I'm going to give it a 3.6667. That's where I go with my meat cleaver rating, just to screw up Joel's tracking.
All of my calculations. Thank you.
All of his yeah, well, I'm going to make you work for it. That's something you know about me.
Laura was 43.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
43.
And let's see, 59. I mean, she was 14 years older than the guy who played her husband. It's not Richard. Like...
I mean,
yeah, Paige Mosley. Yeah.
Yes.
She looks great for 58. Right?
He was so excited. I read that he had a young child at the time they were filming this, and when he got the part, they flew the cast to Spain, to Madrid, to film some of the interiors. And they were him and Barton. What's his nuts? They were like super excited because they had never had such an experience. So it was a big deal for them.
I did kind of like their friendship.
Yeah, I thought
they
these
were funny.
Like,
they were good.
I thought it was funny. Like, he picks him up and he's like, "How's that gorgeous nose of yours?" And then they're singing that goofy ass song, which I mean,
What is the buddy's name, Jesse? The buddy's name?
Richard Simmons.
Richard
by the way,
Simmons.
his name is Richard Simmons in the movie.
I thought he was really solid. I thought he did a really good job, friend.
Yeah.
Well, part of the lull could be attributed to the fact that he sort of disappears for about 20 minutes in after sort of like the second act. He got some really great lines as well when they first go out to the bar or whatever, where that guy's like, "I've got this really bad smell." It's like the guy didn't even look very hard for the bad smell. They just pull one. And then he said something like, "What are you storing in here? Shit." And that cracked me up. So he had a really good line. And then later on, when he tries to pick up, oh my God, what's the lead?
Susan.
Name?
Oh,
the lead guy, what's the
Gerald.
name? Yes,
Gerald.
When he goes to pick him up, and he's like, "Yeah, you coming for a beer, or whatever?" And he's like, "No, I'm going to hang out with Lillian again." He's like, "Oh man, you got microchips for brains or something like that." Yeah. And then he's all angry with him, but then he turns around, he says something like, "Hey, have a good time tonight," or something. And it's like, trying to make you believe that he's a bit psycho.
Yes.
Like,
He's a good character.
He really is.
I like him.
This made me think of one of my favorite lines when the guy goes into the sheriff because somebody trespassed with the pigs, and the sheriff is like, "What is he?" I wrote it down in my notebook, but it's in the other room. He was like,
"Your favorite sow," or whatever he says to him.
No, he says something like, "Go call somebody who gives a shit," or something like that.
Yeah, something like
it was like totally like an 80s, like,
Jeannie.
Of course, they don't have any quotes listed here. I wrote it down because it was just so stupid.
It was very.
Here's a quarter. Go call somebody who gives a shit. Okay, sure.
This movie also has one of my favorite tropes, where it's completely incompetent police. Like these guys are horrible.
Yes. Yes. I was telling Jesse, he's holding the purse. He's like, "We're going to take this downtown for prints." I'm like, "Sir, your hands are all over it. The chain of custody for the evidence is broken. You're holding it."
Yeah.
He was
the sheriff's only interested in like covering it all up, sort of thing as well. Yeah. He's not interested in actually solving the murders. He's just saying, "We don't want to tell anyone, Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. We don't need a bad press. Just bury the body and let's just get on with our lives."
It's the Jaws.
My report right now.
Yeah. It's the Jaws mayor. It's the Jaws mayor all over. Beaches are going to be open on 4th of July. God damn it. So, all right, let me take us home, guys. Let me get us out of here. Thanks once again for joining us. We do hope you have enjoyed the discussion, and special thanks to our host, Gareth of Slasher Trash. Great discussion, and it was a pleasure to have you on. Let's keep your eyes peeled because CIU Crew has several items on the burner. We will be chopping up a full-length episode coming soon where we compare Kevin Bacon classic Tremors and the 1980 flick Blood Beach to close out our summer craze, as well as a deep dive on the smash hit that everyone's been talking about, Curry Barker's captivating new horror film Obsession. So it should be a whole lot of fun. Please join us next time on Chopping It Up.
Oh, she's coming this way. Bodacious tacos.
You're the night here in this town. Something weird took place. They say that a woman died. No one knows why. Everybody is suspecting. Anybody could have been. Said, "Hey, you, where were you yesterday?" I said, "Hey, you, where were you yesterday?" Having him in front of you, you know what is the Cry and pray for your mercy, but it's no good. Everybody disrespected. Anybody could have been. Said, "Hey, you, where were you yesterday?" I said, "Hey, you, where were you yesterday?" Hey, you, where were you yesterday? Hey, you, where were you yesterday? I said, hey, you, where were you yesterday?